Welcome back to Big Mouth and welcome to today's DCEU Daily, and we've got a big show for you. First of all, we'll be asking why WB are not marketing Zack Snyder's Justice League Snyder Cut. Also, we'll be going off topics that have nothing to do with DC, but part of the entertainment industry, because I'm part of the industry. I love the industry. Warts and all, because we're going to be finding out today the darker tunnels of this industry, something I know about from my own consequences of trying to be successful in this industry as well. But first of all, let me explain to you why Warner Brothers, Warner Media and HBO Max are not promoting Zack Snyder's Justice League Snyder Cut. So we need to go back to November of 2019, when we did the biggest of events to try and get the Snyder Cut released. We were successful. It was trending. Over 1 million people had retweeted, and it trended. And as I said on Twitter yesterday, most trends last. They have a shelf life of 3 days. Zack Snyder's Justice League has been trending, and the Snyder Cut mostly has been trending for 4 years. That's historical. That's groundbreaking. But let's go back to after the event. After that event, and that event was so successful, we had Ben Affleck, Gal Gadot, hashtagging, release the Snyder Cut. So John Stankey saw this, and he went to Ann Sarnoff and Jason Kilar, and he said, listen, we need to get this. We need to do this. We need to release the Snyder Cut, Zack Snyder's Justice League on HBO Max. So the department heads visited Zack. Well, first of all, Toby Emmerich rang Zack up and asked him if he would be interested. Of course, Zack was very interested. So they all went round Zack's house. And so Zack made it clear that although there was a Snyder Cut, it needed a lot of work doing so it could be presentable, so it could be watched by a global audience or any type of audience. It was not ready at that point to be released. So when we have this divide of people saying, well, he was lying, there wasn't really a Snyder Cut, why did he need to do so much work to it? Because there was a Snyder Cut, it just wasn't ready to view. He never said it was ready to go at that point. So that was fair enough. So Zack explained to the department heads and Stanky and everyone that they couldn't just release this film. It needed a lot of work. It needed VFX. And he wanted to do some additional photography. So basically, he told them how much money he would need to complete the movie, and that he wanted to release the entire 4-hour cut. And they did their maths, and they said, okay, we're quite happy to give you $75.5 million to do this, but there are consequences for you for this, and that's that we are not willing to stump up the money that is needed to market this film again. Because what they tried to explain to Zack, and what I'm trying to explain to you, is that they'd already spent millions upon millions marketing the theatrical version. They were not willing to do this again. Because even though they knew, because of the trending event, that this film could make money and give them more sponsorships and subscribers for HBO Max, if they were to stump up another 20 or 30 million or whatever it costs to do marketing, they would not make a profit. So they said to Zack, look, you're in charge of the marketing. You'll have to invest in the marketing yourself. So this is why HBO Max and Warner Brothers Pictures and Warner Media itself, the owner of everything WB, including HBO and HBO Max, said, listen, we aren't investing more money. And, this is business. And so people that keep on shouting on social media, WB won't promote this, so we'll have to. Yes, we're helping Zack promote this movie. Quite right, too. I'm helping Zack promote this movie. I want this movie to be the most successful it can be for Zack, for DC, for everyone involved, for everyone who really is invested in the restoration of the Snyderverse. And I would say, as soon as this film's released, the next thing we need to start hashtagging is the restoration of the Snyderverse. Forget the Snyder Cut hashtag, forget all that. Restore the Snyderverse hashtag is going to be all important from the day this film is released. And so this is why Zach is promoting it so heavily. So, you know, Free Buck Theatre, right? He did a whole video, which I haven't watched, by the way, but this is why I'm doing this video, because I noticed his headline was why WB are not marketing it and why Zack Snyder's doing it alone. And I can imagine he was trying to create this situation of trouble between Zack and the studio. Zack is fully understanding of the studio's stance. As I said, let's not forget, they gave him over $70 million to finish his movie and get it picture perfect. I think the studio have been more than supportive. And I'm talking about the new regime. We'll talk about the old regime later, because we're going to be talking about Joss Whedon and all of that. And that is the darker tunnels of this industry that I want to explore, that I've experienced myself. But if you give something, you know, this film has already been marketed heavily. Not this film, but another version of this film, right? The reshoots that Joss Whedon did, Justice League, they spent a lot of money marketing that, and they weren't willing to do that again. They want to make money on this movie. And there's obviously kind of a measurement of what they think they can make. Now, one of the big things that Zack Snyder's Justice League Snyder Cut has already done for Warner Media, it's put HBO Max on the map quicker than it would have happened. So already they're making millions of dollars on subscribers and sponsorships, and that's before it's even had one day on the platform. So already the positive consequences for streaming Zack Snyder's Justice League on HBO Max are brilliant, and they're happy. But they were never willing to market the picture. Now, I understand that. Zack understands that. And you need to understand that. So going on about the studio, and this crap I keep on hearing that Warner Brothers Pictures wants this movie to fail. Nobody wants this to fail. Yeah, nobody wants to be proved. In life, nobody wants to admit or prove that they were wrong for not believing in something and someone. So the old regime of WB Pictures made a mistake. They should have allowed Zack to finish his arc, shake his hand and say, right, next please. That should have been it. It didn't happen. They were wrong. But now Stan Key and Warner Media have said this is happening, whether you like it or not. And everyone wants this to be successful and to make the studio money. Nobody wants to make a loss on this picture, right? It wouldn't make sense, right? So everyone is on the same page, but they are not attempting to promote it or market it. And, you know, now and again you get HBO Max and Warner Media when Zack posts something, getting excited, getting the hype train going, because it costs them nothing to do that. They do not want this film to fail. Nobody at Warner Brothers Pictures or Warner Media wants this film to fail. That's not what this is about. This is about an arrangement, right? What would you have rather? Zack get the marketing money or Zack get over 70 million to make this movie the best it can be? I think we should all be happy about this arrangement and stop boring on about how Warner Brothers and WB Pictures and Warner Media are not promoting this film. It's an agreement. It's an agreement Zack was very happy with. And I think it's working out really well because Zack can promote this picture without having to spend much money. It costs Zack nothing to edit together trailers. It costs Zack nothing to go to Vanity Fair to promote this movie. It's a good thing for Vanity Fair. It's a good thing for Zack. It doesn't cost any money to do these things. So, and maybe Zack did have to pay them some money. I don't know. I don't know how promotions in Hollywood work. But yeah, this negativity about, they're refusing to promote the movie, they want it to fail, is absolute nonsense. And I just wanted to explain that here on today's DCEU Daily, here on Big Mouth. I believe that in life, balanced conversations are the best thing. We know how Zack was treated. We know how Joss Whedon treated the cast and crew of the reshoots, and we're going to go into that very shortly. But I'm a balanced individual. And what I thought is put my bias to one side and explain to you why Warner Brothers are not actually marketing this picture. I have always been divided about Ray Fisher and the way he's fought for justice for what happened on the set of the Joss Whedon directed reshoots of Justice League. But I've always said that I respect his tenacity and his fight to protect the people giving evidence in an investigation that he fought for. Now, yesterday, the shit really hit the fan because Charisma Carpenter, a very talented actor, by the way, who started in the industry young, came out and said that she stood with Ray Fisher and she spoke about what Joss Whedon put her through. So this is the article from the Hollywood Reporter. And I'm going to be very balanced about Charisma. Even though I know she went through a lot of shit, I am kind of disappointed she didn't come out from the beginning and stand with Ray Fisher when everyone was calling him a liar, right? And when he was arguing with people like Popcorn Planet, people like Andy Sigmore, right, and Jodie. But the point being, she's always kind of, in a way, tried to put her side of the story out there. But I just wish she stood with Ray Fisher from the very, very beginning. But her story is just the tip of the iceberg of what goes on in Tinseltown. So let's take a look at what's been said. Charisma Carpenter accuses Joss Whedon of traumatizing her on set. Buffy co-stars offer support. My screen's frozen. What's going on here, eh? How am I supposed to read this? Hang on a minute. To love technology, eh? Sarah Michelle Gellar, Michelle Trachtenberg, and Amber Benson have rallied to Carpenter's side as the actress alleges on-set harassment and misconduct from the Buffy creator. Charisma Carpenter on Wednesday posted a lengthy message on social media in which she accused Joss Whedon of hostile and toxic behaviour on the sets of Buffy the Vampire Slayer and its spin-off Angel. For nearly 2 decades, I have held my tongue and even made excuses for certain events that traumatised me to this day, she began. Joss Whedon abused his power on numerous occasions while working together on the sets of Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Angel. She wrote of the show creator, "The disturbing incidents triggered a chronic physical condition from which I will suffer. It is with a beating heavy heart that I say I coped in isolation and at times destructively." Whedon did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Carpenter claimed Whedon found his alleged misconduct amusing, claiming, let's say that again. Carpenter claimed Whedon found his alleged misconduct amusing. Wow. Claiming he was particularly cruel to her while she was pregnant, even calling her fat in front of cast and crew, which is absolutely disgusting. There can be no defense of this. He was mean and biting, disparaging about others openly and often played favourites, she wrote. When Whedon found out she was pregnant, she says, he asked the actress if she was going to keep it and manipulatively weaponised my womanhood and faith against me, Carpenter alleged. Speaking about her pregnancy and stress, Carpenter wrote that all her joy was sucked right out, adding, I made excuses for his behaviour and repressed my own pain. The actress was an original series regular on the WB network UPN's Buffy the Vampire Slayer, playing snobby high school student Cordelia Chase. She starred for the first 3 seasons on the Sarah Michelle Gellar cult favourite before her character was moved over to co-star opposite David Baranzas in Buffy the spin-off Angel. She was the female lead on Angel for 4 or 5 seasons, returning as a guest star in its 100th episode in its final season. Gellar, who starred as the Vampire Slayer on Buffy for 7 seasons, weighed in on shortly after to stay she stands with all survivors of abuse. Weighed in shortly after to stay she stands with all survivors. I think that's meant to say, not stay. To say she stands with all survivors of abuse. She posted the following statement on social media. While I am proud to have my name associated with Buffy Summers, I don't want to be forever associated with the name Joss Whedon. I am more focused on raising my family and surviving a pandemic currently, so I will not be making any further statements at this time. But I stand with all survivors of abuse, and I'm proud of them for speaking out. So this is an interesting generic comment, is a statement by Sarah, actually, where she doesn't actually name any individuals, but makes an official statement. Not too sure about that. But anyway, she's come out and called out Joss Whedon, and she doesn't want her name associated with Joss Whedon, which is fair enough. After I've read all of this, I want to talk about the timing of all of this because it seems a bit odd. Michelle Trachtenberg, who played Buffy's younger sister Dawn Summers from 2000 to 2003, responded to Gellar's post with her own accusation against Whedon, writing, "Thank you, Sarah Michelle Gellar, for saying this. I am brave enough now as a 35-year-old woman to repost this because this must be known. As a teenager, which is not appropriate behaviour. Very not appropriate." Amber Benson, who played fan favourite Tara McClay on Buffy, tweeted her support of Carpenter on Wednesday. "Buffy was a toxic environment, and it starts at the top," she wrote. "There was a lot of damage done during that time, and many of us are still processing it 20 plus years later." While the two never overlapped during their time on Buffy, they have remained friendly via the fan convention circuit over the years. Benson and Carpenter are doing a fan event at the end of the month together. Benson recurred in seasons 4 and 5 of Buffy and was promoted to series regular in season 6 before her character was killed off. Carpenter's claims come 7 months after Ray Fisher accused Whedon of abusive behaviour on the set of Justice League reshoots, which the filmmaker oversaw following the exit of original director Zack Snyder. Fisher's complaint saw Warner Media launch an investigation into the Justice League reshoots, and Carpenter said she was part of the investigation. As the investigation carried on, Whedon announced November the 24th that he was stepping down from The Nevers, a series he was working on with Warner Media's HBO, saying in a statement, "I am genuinely exhausted and stepping back to marshal my energy towards my own life, which also at the brink of exciting change." Let's read that again. "I'm genuinely exhausted and I'm stepping back to marshal my energy towards my own life, which is also at the brink of exciting change." Unbelievable, isn't it? Unbelievable. Weeks later, on December the 11th, Warner Media announced it had completed the investigation with remedial action taken. Yet the story was not over. Fisher said he would not work on production with DC Films boss Walter Hamada due to what Fisher claimed was the executive interfering with the investigation. He went on to say he would not be playing Cyborg in the upcoming The Flash movie. Actually, Ray's never said that. Basically, the media have said he's not going to be playing it. And Sarnoff has admitted they moved on from Ray Fisher because he wouldn't commit to the project. And that's where we are right now. I have opinions about that as well. Warner Media has stood by Hamada. "I believe in Walter Hamada and that he did not impede or interfere in the investigation," said Warner Media Chair and CEO Ann Sarnoff in a statement, Jan 15th. Fisher on Wednesday thanked Carpenter for speaking out. Writing on Twitter, "Charisma Carpenter is one of the bravest people I know. I tell you what though, Ray, she's the bravest person you know. You don't know many heroes, do you? Anyway, is one of the bravest people I know. I'm forever grateful for her courage and for her lending her voice to the Justice League investigation. Read her truth, share her truth, protect her at all costs. It's time." So that's basically what's going on. And as I say, timing is everything in life, boys and girls, or whatever you identify as, because I don't want to disrespect anyone and what you stand for. But, right, as I say, timing is everything. Why now? It's interesting, as I said on the top of the show before I read this article, why didn't she say "I stand with Ray Fisher" at the beginning? Why didn't the whole of the Buffy cast at the beginning of the investigation stand with Ray Fisher? All of a sudden, Charisma Carpenter comes out after the horses bolted, right, saying she stands with Ray Fisher and making a statement about Joss Whedon. What's interesting about all of this is, let me give you an analogy. You remember Inspector Gadget when he always used to take credit for his niece's, is it Penelope's work, right? She used to solve the crime, she used to save his bacon, and he'd look all good at the end, and she'd just pretend she did nothing. This is basically it. So basically, Ray Fisher is Inspector Gadget's niece, Penelope. He did all the donkey work, right? And then all these Buffy cast members are going to come out now talking about, "I am a woman, I'm a brave woman, he took away my womanhood." It's always political. It's always about this feminist agenda, right? These people are robots. They never stood with Ray Fisher, but now when it suits them, now that it's all out in the open, basically now they've, another analogy for you. Joss Whedon's carcass is on the floor and these people are kicking it. But Ray Fisher went to war with Joss Whedon while they were shooting The Cut. He complained about him. He pushed for an investigation and pushed for an investigation until he got it. And he protected every single witness. He protected their identity and made sure WB Pictures weren't involved in that investigation because he didn't trust that all the witnesses would be protected. So Ray is the hero here, while these people come afterwards when the job's done saying, I stand with Ray Fisher. It was terrible as a woman. And it just makes me laugh. You're not brave because you come out now. To be fair, Charisma was part of the investigation. I respect that she came forward. But why didn't she come out publicly at the time? Was she afraid? Maybe. But I just feel it's like everyone's going mad about this because everyone's got an agenda against Joss. Rightly so. Joss Whedon isn't a nice person. Joss Whedon has an opportunity now, after he's been found out, to come out publicly, make a public statement and apologise to everyone that he's wronged and go and get treatment. He's obviously psychologically impaired to be treating people like this and to be proud of it, as Charisma alleges. So he needs help. He needs to talk to someone. He needs to make up for what he's done because he's finished. He's finished. Now, I don't know, maybe in 10 years' time, he can come out and kind of start again. But I think he has to apologise. The cruelty, talking to people about their weight and being proud of abusing people and playing favourites isn't a good thing. And you know what's sad about all of this, everyone? The Buffy and Angel legacy. This guy had such a great reputation. I remember watching Buffy. I remember watching Angel, right? And the other one on the spaceship, I can't remember what that was called, right? This guy was a genius. We all loved this guy growing up. He really created this kind of TV show. Without him, there probably wouldn't have even been a Smallville or half these shows. He was a pioneer. We respected him and loved him. Then he did Avengers. Both the Avengers movies, the first two, they went down really well. His career was going really well. It's not an accident, I don't think, that he didn't get to do any MCU stuff after Age of Ultron. So obviously something was going on there. He is a serial offender. There's no question about that. But you know what? It's done now. He's been punished. He won't work in this industry for a very long time, or maybe never. And I'm not a fan of kicking someone's carcass after it's dead, as I've already explained. So I'm glad that Charisma, someone I hold dear, I love her to bits. She's an infectious person. She really is. She's as infectious as her Buffy and Angel character. She's just adorable and lovely. You wouldn't want to hurt her. I wouldn't want to hurt anyone. But she really is a nice person. And you know what? We need to talk more about this because there's another story I need to talk about. So now we go to non-DC related matters. And we will be talking about Gina Carano very, very shortly. But talking about what Charisma went through, I want to talk about my experience in Hollywood. Yeah, because I did win the Iron Apple reality show, Iron Apple Raw, a few years back. So after I did that, I thought, well, I've done well. I'm slightly recognisable in Cyprus. I wasn't famous by any stretch of the imagination, but it got the juices flowing. So I thought I'd go to Hollywood. So I spent 6 months in Beverly Hills. I got myself a nice pad. I was going to parties. I auditioned for some interesting roles, and I even went to pitches and pitched my ideas. Nothing ever happened. I didn't become successful, but I met some very interesting people. And I'm not going to tell you who I met. I'm not going to give you names and expose people or anything like that. But 6 months in Hollywood felt like 6 years. No, it felt like 6 centuries. Not that I even know what 1 century feels like, right? I'm not immortal, unfortunately. But it was an experience. It's really weird when you go there because it is absolutely a different world. Anything you've seen of Tinseltown, you will never understand it unless you've been there. There's parties. Oh yeah, there's parties. And oh yeah, there's exclusive parties and there's other parties. And basically, it's very, very kind of secret agent type things to get to the exclusive parties. It's what you know. It's who you know, not what you know, should I say. And I did get to go to a couple of those exclusive parties, and they're very eye-opening. But even the non-exclusive parties are eye-opening. So it wasn't a good experience. I'm not going to lie to you. And it didn't really affect me, the rejections, because that's part of life in this industry. You're going to get rejection upon rejection, right? You know, nobody has the right to become famous and successful just because you go to Hollywood. I'm glad I went, but it really did open my eyes what the industry is about. And hearing Charisma Carpenter talk about what she went through really isn't a surprise to me, and it is only the tip of the iceberg. When you see what people are put through, they're treated as a commodity, they're sucked dry, and they're chucked onto the streets. These are not nice people. You think Joss Whedon isn't a nice person? There really isn't many nice people, big, high-profile, good people in Hollywood. But it's not just the high-profile people. It's the people keeping the wheel turning. These are not nice people, and they live in a world of their own. There isn't a police department that can help you. The police department is there to keep the wheels turning and to cover things up. And so it is interesting when I hear Hollywood people talk about defunding the police, and it's interesting when they won't ever talk about the Hollywood Police Department, will they? But anyway, it was an experience, and definitely something that I try and forget. But I did stay there for 6 months, so I must have stayed there for 6 months. It wasn't all bad. It wasn't all bad. I did make some friends out there. There were some nice experiences, but you've got to understand, I was brought up in the UK in an ordinary town. I was in an ordinary street with ordinary people. So when I went there, I hadn't experienced anything. You can't trust anyone. You know, people may try and be your friend, or they could be a pimp, things like that. Look, as I say, unless you go to Hollywood with your eyes open, you should never go to Hollywood. Right, now, Gina Carano has been a controversial figure on social media for quite a long time. Now, this is non-DC related, but we are going to do this on the DCEU Daily now and again because I'm a fan of pop culture and entertainment. Lucasfilm calls Gina Carano's social media posts abhorrent, actress no longer employed by Mandalorian studio. So, Gina Carano is finished. We will read this and I will give you my opinions on this, but I wish we could live in a world free of politics. I just think people just don't understand what politics are anymore and how you don't have to tell everyone what's in your head 24/7. And I'm afraid Gina Carano just didn't get that. In the wake of Gina Carano's controversial social media posts, Lucasfilm has released a statement Wednesday night with a spokesperson saying Gina Carano is not currently employed by Lucasfilm and there are no plans for her to be in the future. Nevertheless, her social media posts denigrating people based on their cultural and religious identities are abhorrent and unacceptable. Carano played bounty hunter Cara Dune on the first 2 seasons. Lucasfilm and Disney Plus' The Mandalorian, and it looked like we would be seeing more of her. It appears not. The actress shared a TikTok post comparing the current divided political climate in the US to Nazi Germany. So when I read this quote out, I want you to understand these are not my opinions. These are the opinions of Gina Carano. So there's no misunderstanding here. I'm just reading to you what she said as part of this story because I think it's important. Jews were beaten in the streets, not by Nazi soldiers, but by their neighbours, even by children, because history is edited. Most people today don't realise that to get to the point where Nazi soldiers could easily round up thousands of Jews, the government first made their own neighbours hate them simply for being Jews. How is that any different from hating someone for their political views? She wrote, well, Gina, it's very, very different because what the Jewish people went through was brutal and horrible. You wouldn't want anyone to go through. And I wasn't there, obviously, I'm too young. But I'm just saying to hate some. Look, we all have our opinions in life. Now, I don't hate people for their political opinions if they're not my own. And there is a wrongness to that, to hate someone just because they have opposing opinions. But let's be honest here. If you support Donald Trump, if you support the far right and you support, America first and not wanting immigrants in your country and things like that, that's going to make you unpopular because there's an element of hatred in that opinion. And that's just my opinion. And that's not even me displaying a political side because I don't have one. I don't agree with the political system. I think it's all wrong and people have gone absolutely nuts. And the divide globally, especially on social media, about politics is really getting me down. Another photo on Carano's Instagram story featured a person with several masks covering their face and their head with the caption, "Meanwhile in California." Both posts were scrubbed from the actress' Instagram this afternoon, but others picked it up and reposted, see below, or other posts including a quote saying, "Expecting everyone you encounter to agree with every belief of you hold is fucking wild." One saying, Jeff Epstein didn't kill himself, remained. The hashtag #FireGinaCarano began trending with those on social media, tagging Mandalorian creator Jon Favreau, Disney Plus, Star Wars and Lucasfilm. Carano and her supporters attempted to get the hashtag We Love Gina Carano to trend. Carano retweeted the post below on her account. So this is from Drunk 3PO, a member of the fandom Menace, of course. We love Gina Carano. We love Cara Dune. I can dance this dance all day, Twitter. Now, when they support, why do you think they're supporting someone who plays a very small part in The Mandalorian? It isn't because they love her role. It's because what she's spouting. Always remember that. There's an undertone to these things. So this is from Sarah, who is very upset about what Gina Carano has said. As a Jewish person, this is fucking vile and unnecessary. Gina Carano needs to be held accountable. The oppression my people have faced because of our religion and ethnicity is not the same as political disagreements, and I agree with Sarah. Carano previously stirred up the dust on social media with comments about mask wearing and voter fraud. In November, she made fun of those using preferred pronouns on social media by listing beep, bop, boop in her Twitter bio. The action came off as transphobic. She later walked that back, saying Mandalorian star Pedro Pascal helped me understand why people were putting them in their bios. I didn't know before, but I do now. I won't be putting them in my bio, but good for all you who chose to. I stand against bullying, especially the most vulnerable, and freedom to choose. Carano rose to fame as the MMA fighter competing in a Strikeforce and Elite XC. She retired from MMA competition and surged into acting. One of her early launches being the 2011 Steven Soderbergh movie Haywire. She went on to star in Fast and the Furious 6 and Deadpool, playing Angel Dust in the later Marvel 20th Century Fox hit. And I think that's the whole story. Yeah, that's it. Gina Carano wasn't just Cara Dune in The Mandalorian. Jon Favreau was thinking of giving her her own Star Wars show. This woman had arrived, and by the way, she was absolutely fantastic in Deadpool. She can actually act. She's a very talented person. Now, I need to educate you people how life works. I keep on hearing this thing, freedom of speech. Everyone has the right to say what they think. Maybe I used to think that, but now I've matured and I understand. I want you to see the analogy of freedom of speech like a row of dominoes. Every time you say exactly what you think, for example, let's knock a domino down if you say, Mick, your breath smells. How do you think I feel? Right, I can't help it. I put mouthwash in my mouth. I brush my teeth, but I smoke. I eat, spicy things. And so it might not be nice for you to smell my breath, but you could probably, in the morning when my dad wakes up, he's disabled, I have to get close to him to lift him up, and his breath smells, but I never tell him because I don't want to hurt him, right? Freedom of speech has a responsibility to it. We don't have to say everything that's on our mind. Gina Carano, all she had to do was vote at the presidential election and keep her mouth shut. She kept on doing it. She kept on making comments. She kept on posting stuff. It was giving her notoriety from the fandom menace. She was warned by the studio, Lucasfilm. They wanted her to stay. Jon Favreau really fought for her, put his own reputation on the line for her. And I don't know what his political opinions are, and I don't care. That's the point. We don't need to know. All we have to do is vote. Why? Ever since Trump and Brexit, do we all have to be obsessed with politics? And why do we think that everyone else needs to know our opinions about politics? All it does is because everything you say makes other people feel a certain way. And this is what I'm talking about. Freedom of speech holds responsibility. She was about to hit the big time. She has hit the big time. Why ruin it? Go at home and scream as much as you want about your political views when nobody can hear them. If I stood on social media and said everything that I believed out loud, Jesus Christ, you'd never see me on YouTube or Twitter again. Wouldn't that be sad? Well, actually, most of you would probably be glad to get rid of me, right? So I am very outspoken about a lot of things, but I'm also quiet about other things. But we do live in a very political, vocal society. We live in a society now that we try and accept as many things and groups of people as possible because that's how it should be. So now it is unacceptable to have a go at someone because of their race or their gender or their views. But because so many views are on social media, it is hard to bite our tongues. But bite them at times. We must. Otherwise, those dominoes will keep on falling. It's very important we respect how other people feel or people get hurt. Nobody needs to know mine or your political opinion. Let's be friends. Let's try and respect each other's opinions as much as possible. But you've got to understand that for everyone who agrees with you, there's going to be another 10 people who don't agree with you. My father always said, don't bring politics and religion to the dinner table. It just creates upset. You get your chance to vote. The whole world doesn't need to know who you vote for or how you feel about politics. And that is my opinion. As we go to our next story, or before we go to our next story, it's very important to talk about cancel culture because it's a thing. And I noticed that someone said this on Twitter. One day you're the accepted, the other day it'll be your turn to be cancelled. And maybe that's so. I've been cancelled before many times for what I've said. But when you say something that's so controversial, you've got to accept that, right? You've got to accept there's going to be a reaction and you're going to be upsetting people, right? So how about, here's my advice, instead of bitching about cancel culture, think about what you post. Before you post it, then you won't be cancelled. We live in a world of millions of people and they all have access to the internet. Everything you write potentially could be viewed by all those people. And you're going to upset a few people. So if you just say normal everyday comments about films or what's going on in the world, and you have an opinion and you do it in a constructive way, I promise you, you won't be cancelled. But if you purposely are controversial, right? Like Gina Carano, she was being purposely controversial. She was seeing how far she could push it. In fact, I think she was being stupid. She's a silly girl. Silly girl. She tossed away her whole career. So before bitching about cancel culture, why don't we all think about what we say as much as we can, because sometimes we just react and it's difficult. People just don't need to know everything that's going on. in there. Now back to some really exciting entertainment news, because Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey to star in HBO's Last of Us. I have never played this game, never, but this is massive. This will be the new Walking Dead and Game of Thrones combined. This is going to be the biggest show on the planet, and it's going to put HBO Max. I mean, it's already getting up there very quickly, but this is going to put HBO Max on the map. So very exciting. I absolutely approve of the casting of Pedro and Bella. Bella Ramsey was absolutely sensational in Games of Thrones. When she speaks, you just take notice. This is brilliant casting. Yes, and a lot of people are talking about the irony on the day of Gina Carano being fired. Pedro Pascal gets one of the biggest jobs in telly, right? Obviously, HBO is owned by Warner Brothers. This is great because we can get more of his character in DC as well that he played in Wonder Woman 84. So that's good as well. And does this mean that maybe he's not going to be able to do The Mandalorian anymore? There have been rumours about that. I would imagine he can do both. But both these pieces of castings are very exciting. Craig Mazin, who created HBO's acclaimed limited series Chernobyl, is writing and executive producing with Neil Druckmann, the writer and creative director of the game. Chernobyl, a massive show, a brilliant little mini-series. To get the creative from that and to be working with Neil is a massive thing. I'm so excited about this project. Pedro Pascal is joining his former Game of Thrones co-star Bella Ramsey in The Last of Us, HBO's adaptation of the hit video game. The Hollywood Reporter has confirmed Craig Mazin, who created HBO's acclaimed limited series Chernobyl, is penning the script and executive producing with Neil Druckmann, the writer and creative director of the game. Russian filmmaker Katimir Balagov, the Cannes darling behind 2019 drama Beanpole, has been tapped to direct the pilot. So they're putting everything into this project, which excites me even further. Last of Us from Sony and game developer Naughty Dog took the world by storm when it was released in 2013, winning numerous Games of the Year awards and going on to sell more than 17 million copies across both its original release on the PlayStation 3. The game's popularity has only grown since. The thing is with The Last of Us, and basically I've never played this game, I'm kind of guessing the concept is that it's post-apocalyptic and there's only a few human beings left. So an exciting concept. So it's tailor-made to be a hardcore, high-scale kind of a gritty TV series. I'm really excited. The story set 20 years after modern civilization has been destroyed and centers on the relationship between Joel, a smuggler in this new world, and Ellie, a teenager who may be key to a cure for a deadly pandemic. And again, of course, I hate saying this, but this is a very timely drama and story considering what's going on in the world today. So exciting. Joel, a hardened survivor, is hired to smuggle the 14-year-old girl out of an oppressive quarantine zone. What starts as a small job soon becomes a brutal, heartbreaking journey as they traverse the US and depend on each other for the survival. The Mandalorian star is playing Joel. So this is a developing story, so we don't have the whole thing yet, but we do know that getting Pedro Pascal and this wonderful young actor, Bella Ramsey is important because, and I want to say this as tastefully as possible, it's important not to sexualize this 14-year-old character. Very important. And that, because we're getting too much of that in society today with the Instagram generation. Casting Bella Ramsey hits the nail on the head. It avoids that trope. And I'm I'm even more excited about Bella's casting than I am Pedro Pascal's. So this is brilliant. This is massive for Warner Media and HBO Max and HBO itself. A very exciting time for the whole platform. And as I say, no matter what Disney Plus are doing, this is going to be the biggest thing on the planet. And I'm so excited for the casting and that they're doing it. And when you look at the creators working on this show, any Last of Us fan should be really pumped about this. Wow, what a long video. Sorry if you left because you were bored, but basically we will always cover DC and DCEU material and news first and foremost, but we will go to other things in entertainment if I think they're valid and something that I want to talk to you about and put my opinions out there. But finally today we're going to go back to the DC Extended Universe and talk about Ray Fisher. Ray's been very brave, and when you're brave in life and when you fight in a war and you stand up, you sometimes become the sacrifice. But I don't think Ray Fisher was ever going to be the sacrifice. I never thought that his career would suffer because of what he was doing. I always felt he had some protection from Warner Media itself. Now, the question does remain, what is the future for his cyborg character after Zack Snyder's Justice League Snyder Cut? And is it a done deal that he won't be in Flashpoint? Now, as I've said many a times on this channel and the DCEU Daily, I don't believe that's the case. I think Ray Fisher is doing exactly what Walter Hamada advised and throwing Joss Whedon under the bus. That's how I feel. I feel everyone's doing that now. I gave you my analogy, kicking the dead carcass, and that's what's going on. Now, when Walter Hamada allegedly first put this to Ray, Ray was disgusted. But now this is exactly what they're doing. Now, recently, Ray's reiterated one statement that Walter Hamada owes all the victims and witnesses of the Joss Whedon reshoots set an apology. And he said this twice. Now, before he was all, Toby Emmerich should be sacked, Walter Hamada should be removed, I'm not working with him ever again. But now he's saying all Walter needs to do is apologise. And this is why I firmly believe that Walter Hamada will make some remark about this situation and take a step back, which will bring Ray back into Flashpoint. Now, even though we heard they're moving on from Ray, I believe there's a chance here to put this whole situation to bed. Joss Whedon has been exposed. It's done. It's over. And I don't see why we should lose Ray Cyborg, who I believe we're going to love in Zack Snyder's Justice League Snyder Cut, and we're going to want to see more of him. So I do believe, ultimately, Ray Fisher will be in Flashpoint. But it's something we're going to have to see how it all develops. So please comment down below, like, share and subscribe, and I'll be back tomorrow with even more DCEU Daily. See you again soon.